In this video, I'm going to show you how we're sending 1,300 cold emails per day and how we're using this strategy to generate over $100,000 every single month in revenue. I'm going to show you how we use this. This is just one of my sales reps calendars. This is the other one. And overall, we're booking about 15 meetings a day. And the reason why we're able to do this is because we have these 7 things mapped out. So the first thing we're going to go over is actually building your scripts. The second thing is going to be how we actually generate leads on autopilot using AI and intent-based searches. And then we're going to go through how to actually enrich leads using AI. We're going to go over the tech infrastructure that we actually use to send out the emails, the actual KPIs that you should be trying to aim for, as well as how to convert positive replies into appointments, and then most importantly, actually hiring someone to be able to run the whole system for you, and how to get a setter to actually respond to all these messages for you. So there are 5 main things that you need to have in your body copy. So this is an example of something we're using right now that's working pretty well. So we're just saying, hi, first name, and then we're putting a first line about one of their LinkedIn posts. We have multiple different first lines that we use, but this is one of them that we use that we actually build out with AI. So this is what someone posted about this. And then we go into, proving that we've actually done what we're going to say we're going to do. So I just helped a similar SEO agency. So this is specifically for SEO agencies. And the way we're able to know what kind of agency they have is we actually have an AI that will tell us what kind of service they offer, right? So this is just showing proof that we've actually done it. Then the next thing we need to do, is we need to talk about the result that they want. So we help them go from 5 to 34 qualified meetings per week or per month in 8 weeks, right? And then you want to position the call as valuable. So this is the big thing that people don't realize, or maybe people realize this, but they don't actually do anything about it, is they don't consider the fact that people don't do things because you think they should. People do things for their own reasons. So if you say, I would love if you booked a call with me, they don't care what you would love them to do, right? You need to show them why they should want to book the call, right? So what we're doing here is I have a few ideas that I've got for Rise Marketing that I think would work really well, right? So it's like we have something that we can give them on the call, which is going to make them more inclined to want to book. And then we obviously want to reverse the risk. So we just say, P.S., you don't pay if you don't get results, right? And this is what we offer. So there are basically 5 copywriting tactics that you want to think about when you're actually writing a script, right? Outside of, making sure that you have these components here, right? The first thing is friction. So this is a very short email, like other than the PS and like the best and like hi, like it's literally 3 lines. So this is personalized first line, what we can help you do, want to book a call. That's it. Right? So the more stuff you add, the less likely they are to read it, and the more friction you're creating for them to actually read it, right? And when you have more friction and more layers in between them, being able to positively reply and take action, the less people you're going to get, right? So we need to make this as least amount of resistance as possible for them to reply. Second thing is we need to talk about the desire. So if we're saying like, hey, I have, a outreach strategy that I think can help you. If they're not looking for an outreach strategy, they're not going to be interested, right? So we're talking about, qualified meetings. So we're not talking about the deliverable. We're not talking about the service. We're talking about the thing that they want. So we're not talking about what you do. We're talking about what they get, as a result of what you do, right? The next thing is perceived effort. So people are significantly more inclined to want to respond to something that looks like it's personalized, even if it's not, like you didn't personalize it. The key is perceived effort. So when we actually added the personalized first line, what we actually noticed is we got a 2.5x increase in bookings and increase in replies. So literally, just by adding a first line, you're almost 3xing the amount of results that you're getting, which means you're 3xing the amount of profit that you're making in your business, right? So this is very important to actually have personalization, and I'm going to show you how we do this with the AI lead enrichment, right? The next thing is desensitization. So if you're just, if you just take the script, a lot of people have seen the script already because we send 1,300 emails a day. So it's not going to work. So you need to make sure that what you're doing came from your head and that it's, somewhat novel. Because if people have seen the same thing over and over again, it doesn't matter how good it is, it's not going to work because they've been desensitized to it. And then the next thing is escalation of commitment, right? So this is like basically saying that you don't want to ask for a bunch of things up front, right? So you don't want to, ask you don't want to ask for, would you want to book a sales call with me? Obviously, you're not going to say that. You don't want to ask for, a deposit on an email. This is kind of straightforward, but this is important. This is more, important with DMs where you don't want to like necessarily pitch everything right off the bat. With email, it's slightly different, but again, you want to make it as like low commitment and low barrier to entry as possible for them to want to positively reply to you, right? So that's basically how we do. And also another part of this, right, is again with the escalation of commitment, we're asking, are you open to a short conversation? Not are you open to a call, right? Because again, people, you want to make it as easy as possible for them to want to say yes. So we literally use this for a ton of other people, like Danny, one of our clients, booked 4 calls in his first, like this is his first week of launching it. He's like halfway through the warm-up phase and he's already done this. Sabir uses this at 20K client, which is also super cool. So this is like the power that you can actually have when you utilize these things inside of your scripts, right? So this is how you build it out. You can kind of use a similar framework to this, but obviously again, desensitization is important. So don't copy this. You need to use your own brain, right? So the next thing is generating leads on autopilot. So depending on your niche, there's going to be 2 main ways that you can use to scrape leads. If you are targeting local brick and mortar businesses, the best way is going to be Google Maps. And I'm going to show you how we actually automatically scrape Google Maps and how we can find the owner name and find how we can find their personal email and all that stuff, right? And then if you're targeting B2B businesses or like larger companies that are, like let's say 5 million or more per year, they're going to be on Apollo, right? And they're going to be on LinkedIn. So we use Apollo to scrape here. Now, there's a specific way we do this. We don't just scrape from Apollo because obviously, everyone does that and it doesn't work super well. So I'm going to show you how to do this, right? But the way that we basically do this is there is a software called Export Apollo that if you just search up, it's like $3 for 1,000 leads that you can just put an Apollo search URL into this Export Apollo, and then you're going to get a whole list for $3. So it's pretty good. The other thing for Google Maps, and basically what you can do is you can use Clay and you can set up a prompt that basically, it takes the website that you scraped from Google Maps directly, and then it will essentially go into the website using something called, just basically using Clay's AI, which I'm going to show you inside of this lead enrichment step. Basically goes into their website and extracts the owner name, right? So all that's done automatically. If you don't want to pay for these softwares, you can do it completely for free. There's an app called Instant Data Scraper that basically it's just a Chrome extension. It looks like this. And then if you want to find it, just check Instant Data Scraper. And then, for example, if we wanted to search up Google Maps, right? I don't want this. This is where I obviously got this for the Miro. So if we go to Google Maps, right, let's say we're looking for dentists, right? And then what we can do is we can pull up this Instant Data Scraper here, right? And then we can do, try another table until we get the results that we want here, right? And then this is going to give us, right, this is going to give us the Google Maps thing. This is going to give us the name of the company, the amount of reviews that they have, and it's going to give us, a bunch of information. And it should give us their website here as well. So yeah, that's basically what it does. And then what you do, right, is you're just going to, maybe it doesn't give us their website, but it gives us their Google Maps place, and then we can use this to find the website basically. And then from the website, then we can obviously go in there and use like different Chrome extensions like snov.io, for example, to basically find their email. So that's another extension that you can download, right? And in order to scrape this, you're just going to turn infinite scroll on, and then you're just going to click start crawling, right? And then this is what this is going to do is it's going to scroll down and it's going to collect all this information. So we're going to stop this now. But you can see we've collected 31 rows and 31 leads of different businesses, right? So this is how we can actually find this information, and it works super well, right? So that's basically how you can actually scrape Google Maps and how you can scrape Apollo, right? And literally, the way that we kind of do this is we use Apollo, right? And in order to scrape this is our math basically. So we have about 100,000 person TAM for like marketing agencies on Apollo. From there, we get about 50,000 leads, which is like people who we can find in email, people who are actually in our niche, because sometimes the Apollo leads aren't good. And we have an AI that goes and verifies that they are actually an agency. And then also we get a personalized first line and an owner name from them, right? So you end up getting about 50,000 leads. And obviously from 1,300 a day, we send about 29,000 emails a month. And the way that we do this is we repeat the same leads every 2 months. And this is what lets us really book 15 meetings every single day, right? Because we have this like really dialed in, and we're just doing super high volume, also with super high personalization and customization, right? The way that we actually build the personalization is through Clay, and it's through enriching the data. So I'm going to show you how we do this briefly. hopefully you can understand how to actually do this, right? So when we actually scrape Apollo, we're going to get a company name, the first and last name, we're going to get their LinkedIn URL, and we're going to get their website for most of them, right? So now what we're able to do is if they do not have a website, what we do is we use this enrichment here to basically we use Clearbit to go and find the website. So this is set as like this column will only run if we don't have the website here, right? So look for this one, didn't find it. So someone's not going to find a website for it, which is fine, right? Then what we're able to do is we actually scrape the website using serper.dev, right? So once we actually do that, then what we're able to do is we're able to scrape all of the text on the website. So we can see we have all the text here on the homepage of the website. And then what we can do from that is we use a ChatGPT integration that will basically tell us what kind of marketing service that they have. So we can see this one couldn't tell, but it does some kind of marketing. So it just says marketing. This one, it saw that they do SEO specifically. This one saw they do email marketing specifically. And then some of them say false. So for example, this one says this is not a marketing agency, right? And I've checked this and it's pretty accurate, right? So then it will basically use this to take the website text and tell us if it's a marketing agency or not. And if there is no website text, or it can't tell if it's a marketing agency from the website, then it's going to scrape their LinkedIn profile using a specific LinkedIn profile scraper that we have. And then we're going to basically be able to see, what kind of service they have. So this one's content strategy. This guy does content creation, SEO. This one, these two don't do marketing of any kind, right? So that's basically how this works. By the way, I know this is I'm going to make a whole Clay tutorial just because this is probably, this is like the overview of how it actually works. But if you want me to actually come into your business and set all this entire thing up for you, so you can have your calendar basically look like this or just a little less empty than it is right now, you can check out the link in the description, and I can, in the video, I'll explain kind of how it all works, right? But once we actually figure out, okay, they are a marketing agency, then we need to figure out what their email is. So sometimes Apollo will give us emails and sometimes it will not. So if it does give us emails, then we have a system that uses a software called trykit.ai. If you want to check that out, it's really good and it's super cheap. And it basically verifies the email from Apollo, right? If the email is verified, then we're going to move it on to the next step. If it's not, then we're just going to have to look for another email. And if it's catch-all, because you can verify it and sometimes it'll be catch-all, Instantly actually has a feature where they can verify catch-all emails. So then we're going to put a conditional format in here that allows Instantly to basically verify these catch-all emails, right? Once we have that in place, then we're going to look for the email using Trykit if we don't find it from Apollo, right? And then we're going to verify the catch-all. If we still can't find the email, we're going to use another software called Prospeo, and then we're going to verify that and then verify the catch-all. And then once we've done that, then we basically need to use the personalization. So what we do here is basically look if they have a case study in their website based on the text of the website that we scraped earlier. If they do have a case study, then we're going to turn that case study into a personalized first line. So the way that it actually does this, I'll show you my prompts here, right? So it says go to text, and that's the website text here, and extract a case study from this source and use this format, right? I saw you help case study get results impressive, right? So it's going to look for the actual case study name. It's going to look for the result that they got, right? So for example, this one, I saw you helped, University Dental Care Center get an increase in new patients and more efficient appointment setting. Impressive, right? So this is like specifically something that's on their website, right? Now this will find it for about 30% of people. So if we can't find a case study from their website, then what we'll do is we'll go look for a LinkedIn post. So if they have posted, right, on LinkedIn ever, then we're going to be able to scrape their LinkedIn post. So the way that we do this, there's a couple things. So first thing is we need to get the text of what the LinkedIn post actually is. Then we have ChatGPT we use this post scraper again. We use Rapid API, and there's like a specific LinkedIn scraper in there. You can go find it. It's not too complicated to find it. If you just search up Rapid API LinkedIn scraper. But then we use ChatGPT to tell us when the actual LinkedIn post was scraped. So if it was, for example, 1 week ago, we're going to say, hey, I saw your recent LinkedIn post. And if it was 3 years ago, then we're going to say, hey, I saw your LinkedIn post about XYZ. It was a long time ago though, so I don't know if you remember, haha, right? So we have some human elements to this, where obviously we're going to talk about a post differently if it's old versus if it's new, which is why it's important to know when the post was actually posted. And then we use ChatGPT as well, or AI, to basically create the first line, right? So this one, I saw your recent LinkedIn post about leveraging AI in agile project management. It really resonated with me too, right? So again, this is basically how we make this. And then we have different columns for if they reposted or not, or if it was an old post, right? And then if we still can't find anything, then what we can do is we can look at their LinkedIn recommendations. So for example, right, if you go to LinkedIn here, I'm going to show you what this looks like. But if you go to LinkedIn and you go to the very bottom of LinkedIn, you're going to see that people have recommendations. So Donovan was one of the clients that we worked with that went from 2K to 15K a month in basically 2 months, right? So if you can, like if we were to scrape me, for example, right, this would come up with a recommendation that said, hey, saw you help Donovan, right, go from 2K a month to 15K a month. Really impressive, right? And then it basically makes a post based on the recommendation, right? So for example, this was a personalization based on one of the recommendations. I saw your LinkedIn recommendation from Nancy saying you're a talented marketing executive and designer. I'm impressed, right? So again, it's all very personalized to their specific situation. So it works extremely well. Then if we can't find the city from Apollo, we actually use the city in our campaign. So we find the city with AI and we just say, hey, look at this LinkedIn profile, go to city. And then it gives us the city, right? And then from there, right, we have their emails, the city final, and we have the personalization that we need, right? So we get personalization for like 80% of people, which is pretty good, right? So now once we have all that information, we can just plug that into our campaign. And it's going to perform significantly better. Like I said, if you actually use this, it typically performs 2.5 times better, right? Now, the actual tech infrastructure that we use to do this is very simple and straightforward. So how we actually do it is we have, for every domain that we have, we set up 2 different inboxes. What happens if you set up more than that is basically if you have one inbox that goes to spam, all of the other inboxes in that domain are extremely likely to also go to spam. So it's basically like, if you have like 4 trees beside each other, if even one of those trees catches on fire, then all 4 of them are going to catch on fire, basically. So if one of these inboxes starts sucking, then all the inboxes in that domain are going to start sucking. So what we want to do, right, is we basically separate the inboxes based on different domains so that we don't have that issue, right? So we only have 2 inboxes per domain. If you want to really play it safe, you can do 1, but we do 2, right? Then we have each inbox doing 8 unique sends per day. So that's basically sending to 8 new people per day. And that's also going to send 2 follow-ups for each lead. So it's going to send an initial email, then 1 follow-up after that, then 1 follow-up after that, right? So in total, each inbox is going to send about 24 emails per day. If you take 8 follow-up ones, 8 follow-up twos, and 8 initial emails. And then it's also going to send about 20 warm-up emails per day. So in total, it's doing like just under 50, right? So for each domain we can do about 16 unique sends per day. So we do 12 unique sends per day to be exact, which is 165 or 164 inboxes actually, which is 82 domains, right? So this is basically our infrastructure. I would copy this as well. If you want to do less emails per day, then obviously you can adjust this, right? But that's how we do it. We set up all the domains on GoDaddy, and then we use premium inboxes to actually get the inboxes set up, so we don't have to worry about the deliverability. So that's really nice. If you want to check out premium inboxes, I'll put that in the description as well, so you guys can check that out. It's pretty cool. So next thing, and this is very, very, very important, is you can't just use the Instantly data tracker because it's not that accurate. So what you need to do is you need to basically make your own spreadsheet. So you can copy what we have here, and this works well. It's also very important to do this. Because it's important to make different sheets because you're going to have different campaigns, right? So we have 3 campaigns going on at any given moment. So we have a control campaign, which is basically the most effective campaign that we know works, that we've done for months and months, and that converts the best. We do this only in North America, and we send about 80% of our North American leads to this, right? Then we have a test campaign. We're always running tests to about 20% of the emails that we're sending that are also in North America. So this is the 6.0. This is the campaign that we know works the best, that we've tested for a super long time. And then this is our 7.0 campaign that we test different things on. We change a new script every week just to try and beat this control campaign. And we basically judge based on the amount of booking, the booking percent that comes through here. Now you might be looking at this is high. This is like, we tested this for 1 week. This is just our last month's data. So this is not enough information to determine this, right? And then this is basically our Europe campaign. So we send about 75% of our emails to North America and 25% to Europe. Europe performs a lot better than North America just because a lot less people are targeting, but also you have to take into account that typically they have less money. So, it's kind of a balance that we have to play. But it's definitely worth doing this because it's, you get cheaper meetings, you get cheaper clients typically. So that's basically how we split everything up. So last month we did about, what is this, like 80 something, 90 appointments just from email. So we book about 200 meetings a month. We get another half of that we get another 100 or so from LinkedIn outreach. And then also this last month, we only just started adding some new campaigns for the 7.0 campaign. So yeah, this wasn't running for half the month. So we only sent 20,000 emails this month. So it'll be probably like 120 this month now that we increased the volume, right? Now, in terms of KPI, what you want to be aiming for, we are like, these are really good numbers. You don't have to get these. And like, we're like not charging like that much right now. So you're probably going to have a higher lifetime value than us at the moment. So you can kind of afford to send more emails and get less appointments from this, right? So KPI typically I would say is about 0.1 to 3% booking rate. So if you can get one out of every, like at the very, very lowest, if you can get one out of every 1,000 people to book a call with you, that is good enough. And you can scale that. Again, it's going to depend on your price. If you're charging, like 2K, then, or like 2K total, like if your lifetime value is 2K, then obviously this is not going to work just because the math doesn't work. But if you're charging like 2K a month and you like your average client sticks for 6 months and you make 12K a client, like then that's where this can work, right? So you have to look at your LTV and you have to look at the infrastructure cost, and you want to aim for like a 10x return on that, right? So ideally you want to aim for 0.1 to 0.3% booking rate, depending on your depending on your cost and your price. And yeah, this is basically our metrics, but these are quite good. So again, we'll help you build all this if you want to, so you can get similar metrics to this and, not waste as much time just trying to test all of the new scripts to try and actually make it work. But yeah, anyways, next is the actual conversion of the leads. So this is very, very, very important. So a lot of people, they flex these like positive reply rate numbers, and we get good positive reply rates. Like we have a 2%, 3% positive reply rate on Europe, and we have like a 1.1% positive reply rate on North America. Right? But it doesn't mean anything if they don't book and if they don't buy, right? So what we do here is this is basically our whole sequence. So we get a positive reply, and what we do is we reply every single email within 5 minutes of them replying. The way that we do this is we have an appointment setter that literally just lives in the Instantly in Unibox, and just this whole job is just to reply to people within 5 minutes, right? That's his most important thing. Obviously, if you're the founder and you're doing this yourself, then just try and do it as much as you can. Like try and do it, keep it within 30 minutes to an hour. Obviously, I understand there's other things that you have to do if you're the one doing this, but like appointments is it's like the lifeblood of your business. So you want to do this as close to as possible until you can afford hiring an appointment setter, which you should be at least 15 to 20K a month, I would say, before you do hire a setter for this, right? If they do not book a call within 10 minutes of you replying back to them, then what you're going to do is you are going to call them, right? So inside of the lead sourcing phase, you're going to be able to get their phone numbers. So on Google Maps, you can get their phone number. On Apollo, you can get their phone number. If you don't have their phone number, you can, you can use different Clay enrichments to get their phone number, which is what we do. And then we just call them using a software called Cloud Talk. You can use High Level. The thing with High Level, it doesn't work for every country. So we do use High Level for Americans, but when we're targeting Europe, right, High Level doesn't really work, and that might just be because we're set up in North America. But yeah, basically this is the software that we use outside of High Level. Then on that call, the goal of the call is just to book them in. They already showed they're interested, so it's a pretty easy warm call. It's like, hey, I just had a few meetings or a few minutes in between meetings here, and I wanted to provide some value, so I thought I could book you in, and I can share my screen and show you how everything works, right? And then like, no, most people, reply positively to this and they just book, right? Then once if they don't pick up this call and if they don't book in within 10 minutes, then what we're going to do is we're going to put them into our warm follow-up sequence, which basically is an 8 time follow-up chain that's going to send them a new follow-up email every single day for 8 days. And we're also going to call them every single day for 8 days. And then after that, we're going to put them in our long-term nurture sequence. And like, if my setter doesn't have, if he doesn't have any more warm leads to call, then he just calls, the people in the warm follow-up sequence or the long-term nurture sequence after the 8 days. And then we get some bookings from that too, which is really nice, right? It's like free bookings. Now, in terms of how we hire someone, this is very important. I had if you were watching my channel, you know this, but I had a lot of issues figuring out how to hire good setters for like a whole quarter, and it was just a pain in the ass. So this is what I found works, and this is what doesn't work. So first of all, don't try and hire a VA. Do not go to Upwork. Do not go to Online Jobs PH to hire an appointment setter. You need to have like a smart human to do this. And not that like people from the Philippines aren't smart. I'm sure they are. But you don't want to, hire like a $3 an hour person to do this. Because number one, they're not going to be motivated to get better because they're just getting paid $3 an hour. And, second of all, is that a lot of the times people are not going to be super appreciative when they're just talking to like a VA, and they're not going to be super committed. And, it's just harder to train a VA. Whereas you can get someone with a little bit more, skills talking to people, which VAs are typically, not the most extroverted, like super high EQ types of people. So you want to find, someone ideally from a first world country or the country of your prospects to be able to talk to them, right? So basically the reason why this is important, and I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, is like, I want you to think of like, let's say these are the replies you're getting, right? So if you're only on during a certain like periods of the day, let's say you're only able to reply from, let's say 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then you only were able to reply from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., you're only going to be able to reply quickly to like these red dots in this section, which the red dots are going to symbolize replies, right? All the other ones is going to take you a long time to reply to. So you're not going to have a lot of surface area to be able to, reply quickly and get the most amount of bookings. So if you have a setter that does this, right, for like this whole time, that's going to give you a lot of surface area. And so you can reply to people quicker so you can get more bookings and make more money, right? Now, I tried hiring setters from a lot of places, like actual non-VAs. So here's what doesn't work, okay? I didn't have success doing this, right? So it was very hard to, make like the Facebook group posts or just like free school community posts and, try and get people who are interested in online, make money online things. It's very hard to get them. And it's not hard to get them, but it's very hard to get them to be good. So what happened a lot of the time, right, is these people that think they want to do appointment setting, right? Because it's like the same thing with closing. It's the same thing with closers. Like you get this thing online where it's like on YouTube, people are like, oh, you should be a remote closer and you can work 3 hours a day from the beach, right? And it's like you get these types of people who, they think it's just going to be this like easy thing. And it's like 10 hours a day of like calling people, telling you to fuck off, right? So it's like people have this, people think it's a thing that it isn't, right? So you get a lot of those people. So what I found is the best way to get around that is to there's 3 main places. So number one, and this is the best way that I found to do it. Now you guys might not have the network that I have, which then you can't do this, but I'll give you some other methods, is the best way that I found that I've got my 2 really, really solid setters from is just from referrals. So I have, I'm in a couple different masterminds and a couple different like high level programs with a lot of really successful people that know a lot of people that, are appointment setters. So what I will do is if I need to hire someone, and this is for setters and this is also for closers, I will DM every single person in my WhatsApp that might know someone who might want to, be a closer, or someone who's already a closer, or someone who's already a setter. So I have one guy that is my plug for this now because he's given me like both the guys that have turned out really well. But I will literally just DM like 100 people that are, making like multi 6 figures, 7 figures, multi 7 figures with these, coaching and agency businesses, and they will know setters, right? So that's the best place that I found is just WhatsApping people that in my network. Now, if you don't have that access, then the second best way to go is through paid school communities. Now, it's very, very important that it is paid school communities. If you're trying to find people from free school communities and they haven't invested in themselves, it's very unlikely that they are actually serious about appointment setting. And what you're going to do is you're going to find the people who are like, oh, I want to, like lives this like comfy, like 4-hour work week, and it's just not going to work, right? They're not going to be willing to do the work 9 times out of 10. So free school communities I would stay away from. I would just message the owner of paid school communities and say, hey, can I put my job post in your community? Or can you put my job post in your community? Or, and a lot of the times, they're going to be happy to do that because they want their setters to have good jobs. So if you have a good opportunity, again, you're going to want to do this yourself first, just to like have the proof of concept first. But you have to basically do that, right? You have to find people who are already invested in themselves that are actually serious about appointment setting. And the other thing you can do, and I also did this, and this works, is you can hire recruiters to find you appointment setters. So I worked with a company that got me a decent appointment setter, so recruiters work. They are obviously the most expensive option, but it's the easiest and it definitely works, right? So the most important thing is this is how you actually hire them, right? Once you have the person, the most important thing is not, the person you're hiring, and it is very important, the person you're hiring. Well, I would say it's about 50-50. The second most important thing is actually training them. So again, if you have not done this yourself, you cannot train someone to do it for you, right? You have to actually, and maybe you're in like one of these people that wants to run their like agency 4-hour work week BS, right? Then don't do this, right? But you have to do this. You have to do the calls yourself. You have to do all this yourself, unless you already have someone on your team that knows how to do this, and you can get them to train them, right? Like if you already have like a stud on your team, like then you can pass it on to them, right? But most of you probably don't. Some of you do, and you can just get them to do it, right? But you need to be able to do this so that you can make a very specific SOP on exactly how to do this. This is, again, one of the SOPs we give to our clients so that they can just give this to their setters. And, this is like a 20-page document on like how to actually set. So this is what we do. Because again, you don't want there to be any like ambiguity. Like they should be able to go through this, watch the video that's associated with this, and know exactly what to do. So you don't have to sit there and spend all this time training them and fixing all their mistakes. And they're going to have mistakes, and it's your job to fix them. But it shouldn't be that frequent, right? So this is basically how we send out 1,300 cold emails a day and book 15 meetings a day and make a ton of money. So if you want to help with me to do this, then you can book a call in the description. If not, I'll see you guys later. Peace.